Hi, welcome to the In-Depth Genealogist live chit chat. Welcome. I am your host, Valerie Eichler-Lair, and today we're going to chat about who do you think you are, long-lost family, and relative race. And I'd like to welcome those who are joining me tonight. Of course, Terry O'Connell, our executive director. Hi, Terry.
Hey, Val, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm mumble mouth all of a sudden. I feel like I got a cotton ball in my mouth.
It happens.
So, sorry about that. Hi. And then we have Sherry Hudson Passy. She is one of the writers for the Going In Depth magazine and also the Carolina Girl Genealogy blogger. Hi, Sherry.
Hi, Val. How are you tonight?
I'm good. I'm good. And then we have from Canada, Christine Woodcock. She's also a writer for Going In Depth digital magazine, and she's the owner of Scotland Tours, and she's going to Scotland on Wednesday. Hi, Chris.
Hey.
Are you all packed, ready to go?
I'm all packed, ready to go.
And we're going with you, right?
Field trip.
yeah, road trip.
Road trip.
Yes, in your suitcase.
And then we have Dustin Austin. He's from Ohio, and it's Seneca County, correct, Dustin?
Yes, I'm the president of the Seneca County chapter.
Hi, and welcome to the Tonight Show.
Yes, thanks for having me. It's always fun chit-chatting with everyone.
Good. You are a guy that we can beat up.
That's right. I don't mind.
And then we have Mary Kircher-Roddy. She is from the mkrgenealogy.com. Hi, Mary.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Well, good to see you. We have a lot to chat about, and it's going to be really hard to keep it to 30 minutes. And I'm going to set my timer just like I did last time. And so the first up is Who Do You Think You Are with Smokey Robinson. And it was a jam-packed episode. And I think like the other episodes so far, they started with the census records. Am I correct, Terry? Oops, we lost Terry's sound.
Sorry, that was me.
You want me to do the setup again, or?
No, we're fine. So I believe Flossie was his grandmother, correct?
His mom.
It was his mom. Okay. So they were looking for her in the census because she had the unusual name since they were going with the last name of Smith, Flossie Smith. So they were looking for her in 1910. And the first thing that popped out at me is in 1910, if you look at the section where it asks if you're married, it tells you what marriage it is. It's M1. It's your first marriage. Both of her parents had the M2. So it was nice to see that, but it's good to show you these clues that the census records do contain. So that was really cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
It made me want to pull out my computer, but I held back because I just wanted to enjoy the show.
Oh, I couldn't. Duh. And then too, Smokey had indicated the name was Rivers, but in that first census, that wasn't the case, right, Terry?
Yeah, it was Smith they were looking for.
Mm-hmm. And then in the next census, that was kind of crazy because I could not find that one, and I was getting frustrated before the show. And like you said, you should enjoy it. But that's when dear old Ben, was with a wife too, and they had only been married a year, I believe, right, Terry?
Yeah, it seemed like they were all very brief.
Yeah. Oh.
But how about the fact that can we talk about Ben for just a quick minute?
Oh, yes.
Ben was a preacher, and he kept going looking to find his church, but he left wife after wife after wife. This was a man of God. I didn't get that.
I didn't either.
Well, the commercial, the setup in the commercial was saying, "Oh, he's a pastor, but he's a player."
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, Terry, you did really good talking about that specific column. And Mary, can you kind of touch upon the census itself and what the enumerators were to do?
There's a great website that is it's called IPUMS, and excuse me, it's Minnesota Public Information. I forget exactly what it stands for off the top of my head. I have the link that hopefully we can put it in the chat notes. But it has enumerator instructions for each of the censuses, and it shows what the forms are, the questions that were asked, and then what the enumerator was told to do. So on that 1910 census, where Rivers Smith, this is Ella, and for whatever reason, her first name is Rivers on this census. She's listed as M2, and that means, it doesn't mean it's her second marriage. It means it's not, she is married and it's not her first marriage. So it could be a third marriage. Mm-hmm. I've seen plenty of people that say M2 and it's probably their fifth marriage. So, but you need to read the instructions for the enumerator to understand what those answers mean and why do they say somebody is 2/12 of a year old, or why do they say that somebody is M2? And, you know, as they say, when all else fails, read the instructions. But I think it's important to read the census instructions even before you start, before it fails.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll get that link to Terry so that she can put it in the comments with the chat.
I've already made a note.
You're awesome. Great. Yeah. That's a good point because so many people don't know that. And so many people don't automatically assume that M2 means the second marriage. So good point. Good point. Chris, what was your favorite segment of Hoodoo? Who do you think? I shouldn't say that.
I think, as with any of those shows, my favorite point is when they make the physical connection with their ancestor. So him being able to go to the church that his ancestor had been a pastor at, and being able to be invited to stay and take part in the service or enjoy the service and sing along with the choir. And then right at the very end where he stood on that land and he said, you know, and I mean, it was fabulous. The view we got was incredible. And then to say, you know, that they had walked here and he's there and he could feel them and just, you know, I wonder how much it's changed since they were here. Probably not a lot. And I thought probably the only thing that's changed is the size of the trees.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. As far as, you know, he had made mention, I believe too, you know, he knew the land and, you know, amount of time that he was there.
Yeah.
So, that was a really good point.
Yeah. I think the other piece that really I liked was the whole, I mean, we hear quite often about, you know, the African Americans being, having a slave heritage. But what I liked about it was when they explained that he was free and then he continued to stay there anyway, and some of the reasons why he might have stayed there, you know, whether it was, you know, just because he already knew the work or he already knew the people, or it was he had no other means to go, or he actually genuinely enjoyed it. I really liked that, and I loved when they brought out that court document and the ancestor who had been the slave testified to his master's benefit. That was incredible, just incredible, which made me think he probably stayed because he, you know, had that sort of relationship. He was fairly well treated.
Well,
as well as you can be in those circumstances.
Motivation about why he might have said that.
Yeah, I know.
It could have been goodwill. It could have been
too.
so,
but you know what? I'm going to look on the positive.
I also think it's important. They did note that a lot of them stayed. A lot of the slaves stayed because the family knew where they were, so the family could.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and pardon the pun, but his roots were there.
Yeah.
You know, and knowing who was there in the land and stuff, that whole scene, and then looking, you know, into the pasture, and it's like you can almost feel it. I'm sorry, I get goosebumps, you know, thinking it's like, oh yeah, it's almost like they're right there with you. So when he said that just touched a nerve. Yeah. There were 15 documents, if I counted them all right, and according to my 8 pages of notes here. But crammed a lot of documents. So 15 documents in 7 locations. And we've just touched upon just the census and so forth. So Sherry, what other types of records caught your eye?
The court records. I love the divorce decrees that they found, that he was able to touch those divorce decrees. I think sometimes people forget that not everything is online, and we need to go to these archives, and we need to go to the courthouses. We need to go out and search for these original records. The other thing that I like were city directories. I love city directories. And I think sometimes we don't talk enough about city directories and how wonderful they are and how we can trace, especially between those 10-year census, we can trace where our family is. And they give us so much information about what they're doing, you know. And so I love that they use the city directory. They looked at the slave owners lists so they could try to see if they could connect the war family with a possible slave owner, because when they looked at the census record, it was almost a whole page of the same last name. And he asked, do you think these are relatives? And then it was explained that maybe, or maybe it's just people that took on the name of whoever may have owned them. And that happens a lot. And so they took them back to see if they could find, you know, a man with that name. And they did. And they did. And I think from that, when they went to the National Archives, one of the most incredible document that they found was that that Chris was just talking about, where is his name Adam? Is that right?
Adam.
Where, yes, where he testified that yes, you know, they came in and they took all this stuff, and I don't think he got paid for it. But Smokey said the beauty of this is that these are his words. You know, yes, he signed his mark, and somebody wrote that, and he signed his mark. Those were his words. So he was able to read his ancestors' words, and I just thought that was incredible thing, because not often do we get to read our ancestors' words, especially an enslaved ancestor.
Absolutely,
Right?
absolutely, yep.
Yeah.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. The head on the nail, whichever. That he was able to read the document,
Yeah.
you know, and go word for word, and even got up off the chair
Yes.
and looked closer.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought that was fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And I'm like Chris, I love any time they can go to where their ancestors were. I just think that's always the most incredible blessing, is to be able to trace back to where they were and to be able to go there. I think that's wonderful.
And then the historian, you know, giving more background. They gave a lot of insights. You know, those were hidden hints. When he asked, he goes, "Well, did he get that back?" And she said, "You know, slim to none."
Yeah. Hey, government, you know, you came down and were fighting us and took all our property. Now we lost, but we want it back. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to bring up. I'm sorry, what, Chris?
The history piece is so important because it helps the person who's doing the research put the story together.
Exactly.
Right, and that's what we're in it for, is to put the story together.
Absolutely.
And that was so cool because each of the genealogists and each of the historians did that.
Right.
Right. Really robust amount. And that's why I want to just briefly mention, of course, I could, you know, talk about Shelby County Archives, you know, the entire show. I love Shelby County. I've done so much research there, and to see that building, and then the Hollinger box, and she was, I wonder, I haven't looked it up yet, but I wonder if she's the one that I spoke with, you know, when I would call, but I don't think so. But the death certificate, did you see how many names? Ella, Smith, Rivers, and then McCurry. They didn't even touch upon that. But the previous death certificate they showed, and I had a conversation with a colleague that, well, how do you know that that was that person, and then also too, the birth years were way off. Well, when you go back and look at that death certificate, that, you know, very carefully, look at the informant and the informant was a friend. And with the way good old Ben was in his lifetime, none of the lies. He probably told so many different, years he didn't remember. And so the informant on his is a friend. But it was so cool to tie in towards the end of the show of Ella's death certificate, and the informant was Maddie Henry Dunn of Chicago, Terry. That matched one of the names on the 1910 census that you were talking about. There was a Maddie H. She was 4 years old. So
yeah, she was Flossie's older sister.
So it just, brought it together. So
really quick while we're talking Chicago. So this is the third week we've had a Chicagoan on Who Do You Think You Are? So Tony Burrows, he did a great job. For those of you who are Tony fans, he is actually speaking at the Chicago Genealogical Society's 50th anniversary on May the 6th.
Oh, wow.
Their website, chicagogenealogy.org, to sign up.
Give him a big hug for me. He did such a great job on the show, and it was so good to see him. And, I met him back in 1992, so I've known him since 92. And it's so good to see him still there, still doing things.
Very sweet man.
Yep, very, very much so. So, yep. So when is that? Is May 6th?
May the 6th.
Okay, good. And we can put a link
absolutely
in the comments. Cool. All righty. Well, next week's Who Do You Think You Are is going to have, I know, one person in the room all hot and bothered. It's John Stamos.
I might have to swim back across the ocean to watch that one.
Yes, so keep your eyes and ears open and watch and record, and I'm going to be looking at stuff. I'm going to go down the rabbit hole. Well, I was at Ghirardelli Square, and the park that was in the beginning of the episode, introduction of Full House, and they're sitting in that park, picnicking and stuff. I've been there, and so it's like, ooh, cool. So, anyway, enough of that. We're now going to talk and chat about Long Lost Family, and I thought that last week was the last episode, but no, there's still a couple more episodes. So this was the 9th one, and it was really a good episode. And Terry, I'd like you to start off with introducing us to what took place in specific hints.
Well, I don't want to go through the whole thing because obviously it's a time thing. Watch the show is definitely what I would recommend. But the story is this. A mother dies. She has lung cancer. And on her deathbed, she makes her daughter and her husband promise to find the son that they gave up for adoption before they got married. Denise, the daughter, is following through with mom's last wish. Chris Jacobs helps them find the son, Glenn, who was originally named after the father, Edward, and went and they visited him. And it didn't seem like he was very keen on doing this at first. It kind of almost seemed like he was like, either way, it didn't matter. He was okay in his life, and he didn't need any closure. That's what it seemed like. But as the story moved on, it turns out that through DNA testing, he's not a full sibling. He's half sibling, so he definitely descended from the mother, but Ed was not his father. He took the information very well. It didn't matter. He still had a sister. He had been raised an only child. And Denise was very happy still because she was raised an only child, and they both had found each other. But it's important because we talk always about these family stories and what do we do with them? And, do we set to prove them? Do we disprove them? Or do we just write them down and this is our family story and do nothing with it? Well, this year, kind of shows us how important it is to go and look, because if they didn't do that DNA test, TLC, Chris, and the whole production company of Long Lost Family could have just introduced this guy to Ed and telling him that's his son, and it turns out it really wasn't. And Ed, very gracious man. He wasn't mad at his wife. You know, it is what it is. And we were young, and that was that.
Mm-hmm.
Mary, can you give us some more insight on Glenn finding out, you know, that his mom had died?
There were, you know, a couple of instances with that he asked Chris and found out that his mom had died. And then he flat out, I mean, he straight out asked Chris, is my father still alive? And Chris said yes. So it's hard to know, I mean, how much the show knew, how much information they had when they were sitting with Glenn. Obviously, by the time Chris got back to talking to Denise, he knew the DNA results, and he knew that Ed was not Glenn's biological father. But and then Denise looks at the picture of her brother and says, "Oh, he's such a perfect mix of mom and dad." And you just saw this kind of sick look on Chris Jacobs' face. It was like, because he knew what he was going to have to tell her, and that he's not Ed's biological son. But it was, I don't know, I was very curious, you know, what did they know and when did they know it? And I hope that they didn't know, did not have the DNA results when they talked to Glenn, because the thought that they were telling him an untruth is just, so I trust that they didn't know, but it was interesting to wonder about.
Yeah, Chris, what did you think? Did he know or not?
No, I don't think I don't think he did. And I think the other piece that got me, and I can't remember, how did he find out that that wasn't his dad? Because that wasn't on the show, right? But by the time he met with his sister, he knew. Because he, just as you're saying that, Mary, is my dad alive? Yes. Well, how do you know that now? Because he's not my dad. Right?
And I wonder if they knew, if they've done something off the show that they know who is biological, made matches.
At the point in time when he asked, is my dad still alive? And Chris said yes. They then let his sister Denise tell him, you know, that the mom had died.
I believe that's right.
So they let him, you know, well, Chris did tell him that they had gotten the results back, but
Right.
She let Ed know that it wasn't his son, but who let the son know that that wasn't his father?
Think Glenn knew. I don't think Denise told Glenn.
Oh, I thought she'd.
no,
somebody in there somewhere must have told him, because by the time he met with Denise, he knew, because the dad wasn't there for that meeting, right?
True.
That's right. That's right.
It's probably cut from the, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. I apologize. Yeah, it was Denise telling her dad.
Telling Ed, yes.
Right, Ed. But Chris would have been the one that would have told Glenn.
Yeah. But, you know, again, just the whole unraveling the story, right? The whole, here they've lived with this information, the mom and dad, believing that this was biologically both of their child.
Right.
And for however long they were married, which apparently was quite a while, they had another child a few years later, and then it was only through the genealogy research and the DNA that they discovered that, oops, that really isn't the case. So like Terry said, it really is important to go after those stories and work to find out whether they're true or not, and hope that they are. Makes life a lot easier.
Yes.
The other one that really got me, Val, was the other story on that. I'm waiting for that to be one of the follow-up reunion shows where that just really has fallen apart, because I think that mom was extremely needy. I was scared to death for the daughter, who had a fabulous relationship with her adoptive mom. I was her best friend. They did everything together. The mom was so supportive about her finding her biological mom. And then that biological mom, I mean, her reaction was just off the scale.
Clingy.
Off the scale. You know, I mean, you know what? I can't imagine. I mean, truthfully, I'm grateful that I never, ever had to make that decision. I can't imagine what it's like to give up your child. But again, you know, you need to work, some sort of therapy work needs to be done before that reunion piece happens.
Right.
I thought the same thing, Chris. I was very concerned because it was the first one this year when they did the What Happened Next, was that dad that was like that, and it destroyed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, she kept saying, "I'm your mom now. I'm your mom now." You know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
yes, you're her biological mom. Who was raised by a mom that she knows to be her mom. You have a place in her life, but don't smother her with "I'm your mom."
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, Sherry, and you have like that whole other side being an
Exactly.
adoptive mother. So really,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, in
It's
fact,
difficult. Yes.
yeah, in fact,
Yeah.
Sherry, can you touch upon, the closure or what?
Right. I understand. What was the daughter's name? I can't. It's escaping me at the moment.
Yeah.
I can't. I just
Denise?
can't remember.
No,
No, that's
Denise
the-
was
Oh,
first.
the other
yeah,
daughter.
it's
No, Gina.
escaping me. Is it
It's
Gina?
Gina.
Okay, Gina. Thank you.
Gina, yeah.
For her, I was happy that she got that closure to the story, because adoptive children want to know why. You know, a lot of them don't necessarily want to connect and find them. They want to know, why was I just not wanted? Why did you give me up? And so for her to at least be able to hear the story of what happened and learn why, really was good for her. And I think it's good for all children that are adopted to find out why, to know the story behind why, to help them with their self-esteem, because a lot of them suffer with self-esteem because, oh my gosh, my own
They feel rejected,
mom
right?
and dad, yeah, they feel rejected. They didn't want me.
Yeah.
And so I appreciated the fact that she got that closure, but like the rest of y'all, I was a little scared about that mom.
Yeah. It's funny because when we used to work with the adoptive kids,
Uh-huh.
we used to refer to their mom and then their tummy mummy.
Oh,
I mean, mommy.
oh,
And
that's
that's
sweet.
how so you have a mom, and that's the
Right.
person who,
Exactly.
holds your head in the night when you're throwing up and
Yes.
wipes away tears when your heart
Yeah.
breaks and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's your tummy mummy that brought you into this world. So,
Right. Right.
and that mom need to learn tummy mummy.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Now, I feel that she was traumatized,
Yeah.
because she was so young and she felt like that wasn't really her decision, and she was traumatized. And
Yeah.
probably because she never had any more children, it made it worse.
Made it worse. Yeah.
So I think she does need a lot of therapy.
Yeah. And that piece too, when you were talking about that other one with with Glenn, and you said, it looked like he wasn't all that interested. He did say that it was how unnerving it was to get a call like that out of the blue.
Yes. Yes,
And
he
I
did
can
say that.
imagine, right? So
Mhm.
I'm not sure I'd be all that hot to trot either. I'd be pretty skeptical. Pretty skeptical.
There's an awful lot of things. I just finished reading a book, an adoptive woman's story, and there's just so much and so many questions that you really have to consider. And how do you integrate these new people in your life? Yes, they're blood, but are they family?
Right.
And don't start down that path unless you've really thought about these things and talk to people about the upsides and the downsides of this situation. I think people really need to consider the angles and go into this process thoughtfully.
I agree.
Exactly. We need to move on, but I just want to say one thing, that when they popped up Nassau County, New York, I saw right away, oh no. And I'm glad they said in the show that New York State is so difficult to get records. Having worked and some experience with New York is like, oh, come on. No. So, but yeah, very good. Very good. Okay, well, according to our time, we have 3 minutes and 33 seconds to talk about relative race.
No.
That's not going to happen.
So I think we're going to go maybe a little bit over. I should probably stop my stopwatch here. But anyway, relative race. Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps even mentioning it. So, Terry.
Well, let's just start out with a little bit of fun. Team Blue was made to sleep in a tent a prior week, and they slept late. And I just want to say that that's from all that good fresh air.
Yes.
Because you sleep really, really well when you get that. It was kind of funny, and they had that set up very nice for them, but it is a little bit of payback.
Yes, it is.
Beyond that, the only thing I can tell you about this episode was that it was truly amazing to watch Joe meet his father. And I knew it from the moment the show started, and they kept showing all these other teams doing everything, and Team Black was not in it. And Team Black was not in it. And I was like, I'll be darned they're going to push this out. And as soon as...
That was the key factor.
Yes, it totally was. And as soon as he opened the door and walked out slowly, and the girl was helping him, and I was like, darn, that's him. I was so excited. And I think Joe knew too, because he was like this.
Yes.
No, because he asked who you were. He said, "Who are you related to?"
Yeah.
Well, but I think he knew in his heart. But he.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He
needed to hear it. But you could see the anticipation just weighing on him as this elderly gentleman slowly walked down towards him.
And slowly started to say it.
It was like a 20-minute walk for Joe. Like, sure. Like I said earlier, they could end next week in Boston. It's done. It's over. Even if Team Black doesn't win, they won. They won. He's walking away with a family, and he thoroughly, you can just tell, he is thoroughly going to be a part of that family.
Exactly. I was thinking to myself, I'll bet he didn't want to leave. He doesn't even care now. I'm done.
Right? Exactly. Would you have, I don't know.
Wanted that third strike.
Yeah.
And there's nothing $50,000 could buy him that's any better than what he's receiving.
And you know what? And the part that made it even more sad was the fact that his father's really sick and the cancer's back.
Yes.
So time is of the essence, and it's like, now I really can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna interrupt and have Dustin, since you had mentioned to me that you'd seen just the first part of the show. When you saw that, thinking what was going on. I'm curious what you felt.
Well, I seen the whole show for. I just only seen half the show for Long Lost Family.
Okay.
But for Relatives, I seen the whole show. When it first started, as Terry was saying, it's kind of like one of those things where they're not showing them. They're not showing them like, okay, this is like I don't want to say finale, but in essence, almost like a finale. It's like they're building up to this, like this is it. And last episode, they started the whole show off with last week's episode where it talked about the dad. I'm like, oh, this is it. I think because they were so close with having 2 strikes, I think they wanted to make sure they got that in.
Yeah. I think the only thing that's going to make this any better is if he's meeting siblings from now on.
Yes. Or if Maddie meets somebody really amazing.
Right.
She needs to meet somebody.
But even her reaction when they realized that was Joe's dad, Maddie was just beside herself. I know. I
whacked him.
I'm gonna pinch you so you know it's real. Now let me slap you instead.
That was great.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know if she did, but when she hit, it's like, get out or something.
Yeah.
But she was very gracious this whole time, where she physically makes sure that she says on air how many times that this is for Joe, this is for him, and I don't think she cares about meeting anybody. She is all about supporting him.
Exactly.
What a wife.
Yep.
We all need one of those.
Yes.
Did you say wife or life?
We all need a wife that's supportive like that. Too funny.
Let me give you an email address to write that to.
1-800 number. That's another one where it was the unraveling of the story, because I got the perception from watching the show from the beginning that Joe didn't know why his dad wasn't in his life.
Right.
He wasn't sure if, something had happened between him and the mom, if he didn't want to take part of the responsibility. I mean, it just never showed. And that question, as Sherry said, the not knowing is the question why, was there burning in him the whole time. And yet when it came time for the dad to say why, he's like, well, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And if I had known, I'd have been there sooner. And I wish I'd known about the accident, because I would have reached out earlier.
Oh.
I know.
Heartbreaking.
I know.
Mary.
Well,
you had the last word.
I had,
and we're 4 minutes over.
Sort of cyber stalked him last time, so I do. As soon as they said Richmond, like,
Yeah.
yeah. And then when
Yeah.
they gave the address, I had found his dad's address just by
Yeah.
by bagging a live one. So I knew exactly what was coming. And seriously, I tuned out the rest of the show. It was all Team Black all the time. I cannot tell you what happened with Team Red. I don't know where they went, what the family was, who their relative was, nothing. It was all about Team Black. And, you know, you get this meanwhile, and then they cut to the other team. I'm like, no meanwhile.
I agree.
Well, you all know that I'm for Team Green, but this time I was actually so excited for Team Blue, and I'll say it real quick, and then Sherry, you can give the show results.
Okay.
But what really touched my heart was on Blue Team when she brought out that log.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what's this
amazing.
piece of wood?
Oh, that was really
But it was a carving of their family tree. Oh my gosh.
And they could touch the names.
Yes,
And it was
and
from
he
the
saw the
slave-
connection.
The slave family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I want
And
one.
that was actually what helped them find their connection, because he saw a name he knew.
Yes.
The Emma
Yes.
Cox.
Yeah.
Yep. But that was just, oh my gosh. That was, yeah. That to me, after getting over the excitement and the shock with Team Black, and like, okay, I know I like you, Team Green, but you know, that moment with the log is like, cool. So what were the results?
Okay, before I get to the results, I just want to say real quick, how amazing was it to have Joe connect with his sister, his new sister that was adopted from China, and for him to understand completely her need and her desire to find out and connect with her family. And they didn't even have to, he said, no words. She didn't even have to say anything. He just immediately understood. He got it. He got her and she got him. And how amazing was that? But
I think that's going to be a very special relationship.
yes, I think so too. Well, he said, you've got a new big brother. I'm watching out for you, as she was showing him all her posters in her bedroom. So that was really cute. But for the results, first place, Team Black. Woohoo! Woohoo! Yay, Team Black. Second place was Team Green. Third was Red, and Team Blue got their first strike, probably because they slept in, and then they backed down and hit the bush, and then they couldn't get their car to go. So,
Oh yeah, the remote control car.
the remote control car. So they had some, you know, I mean, I hated for them to get a strike, but it kept everybody in for one more day to meet family.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've not only run out of time, but we've gone a little bit over. But there was a lot to talk about and a lot to share in our chat. So I want to thank all of you for being here and joining in today. And we've run out of time this week, but next week we'll try and keep it to, whoa.
Ignore me.
I'm in multi.
Ignore me. Keep going.
We'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line down below in the comment section. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to IDG's YouTube channel. Or send us a simple email at info@indepthgenealogist.com. So with that, we'll see you all next time. And remember to go in depth with all of your ancestors. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye.